Welcome to the video about pictures which I colored in July. And traditionally, let's start with Matchstick Mouse. I had quite a good progress here, mostly because I promised myself that I will start the next Matchstick Mouse book only when I finish Matchstick Mouse Summer. So in July, I did several pictures. Let's start with this landscape. For me, it's the part of the journey, part of the story which I started in June. Maybe that's picture of the morning, start of the journey, and somewhere in the middle of the day they went through this beautiful valley. Really nice. I used some of my favorite color combos which I love to use in Teresa Goodrich landscape books, and probably somewhere in the end of the day they finally reached the top of these mountains. Really nice. Next picture I did with Prismacolors for the main heroes, but also with Ohuhu markers for the sky and for the leaves. Honestly, I simply felt a little bit bored to do the same sky colors, to do the same leaves through the whole book, so I decided that if I use something different, markers together with pencils, it will be quicker and it will be more fun. So here company go to play golf, probably, at least I think so, looking at this ball. Very quick, very simple, but plus one finished picture here. And another part of the journey here for the mouse, but well, probably more dangerous. I really love how Morgan O'Brien depicted this one. Look at this bottle cap, look at this spoon, very nice, a lot of nice details. Again, I try to use at least something different. Of course, I was tempted to color the whole forest with only green colors, but then I decided that maybe I can play a little bit with orange, yellow and red colors. The same thing with this one. With orange sky, I tried to show that we have a very hot summer day, but still they can have some fun playing in the depths of the forest. They have beautiful small forest river, and I especially love the worm. It's so adorable, tiny element, but it always puts a smile on my face. Another book which always makes me happy, it's books about Mr. Fogarty. I love all books by Mr. Hampson, but Frog and Snail, they are my favorite heroes. And when I got this Around the World book, I decided that maybe I want to color it in order, to travel together with Mr. Fogarty and Mr. Snail. And finally, I started this book. The first page is so. I really loved this one until almost the final moment when I added those strange, stupid stars. I don't know. Somehow I thought that maybe it's empty area, so I have no explanations why I did it. But apart from it, I think that it looks lovely. I tried to make at least slightly different sky color near the most interesting cities here. So it's all polychromos pencils. For me, polychromos work better on this paper, but maybe for some of the pictures for bigger landscapes I will also use Prismacolors. I don't know yet. I definitely intend to use markers because for pictures like this one, my second finished page, markers are really very helpful for the background. But of course, with my luck, I still had problems with markers. Everything worked really well when I did these wallpapers with markers until the last moment here. I was distracted for just 30 seconds. Maybe someone was calling or someone asking me. So I was distracted and I stopped the tip of the marker here for 30 minutes and I got this stain because here I managed to do nice smooth coverage without stopping in one area. And here just one moment of distraction and I have this strange line, yeah, because I moved with marker short stop and it already gives you some stain. But okay, apart from it, I think that I can perfectly well work on this thin paper. A marker works well and stays in line. I really dislike when paper is very soft and when you put marker ink on it, it goes over the lines, it can't stay inside of the image. So here I didn't have such problems and I will simply try to work quicker and not to have such mistakes. Apart from it, I think that they look really well because I love to color metal, so it was really quite easy coloring for me. I was a little bit unsure how to color this vase, but then I thought that maybe it's something from Chinese or Japanese and colors which I associate with jade. That's what I used here. Well, those clocks, I think that they will be an element which we can find on each page, so I intend to use the same colors through the whole book. If Mr. Hampson decided that it's a repeated element, okay, I will color it. Again, polychromos and Ohuhu markers. The same here, I started with markers, but then on top of the marker layer, I added polychromos pencils to add highlights and reflections from the lamp, to add shadows behind our heroes, and I had a lot of fun by coloring their clothes. I hope that they all look quite fashionable. I decided that I will color in more simplified way, not bothering about very detailed fur texture or feather texture. More important is the whole color compositions. So I think that everything here looks lovely. Maybe something here it's very simplified, but I think that the more important is to concentrate here on our Reform Club. Really very nice that we have here the name of the picture and short part of the story really helps to follow this travel of Mr. Fogarty. I hope that in August or in September I will continue to travel together with them. Another book where I tried to work on thin paper with markers and polychromos is Year of Witches. But here paper is softer and again I have the same problems with stains with the markers and actually paper here is worse comparing to the books of Mr. Fogarty's story. But in July I managed to do 2 pictures. Here everything on the background it's markers and then on top of it polychromos pencils for the texture, for the shadows, for more vibrant colors on flowers, and girls, witches, I did with polychromos pencils. I did it for a challenge color with Ukraine. We colored pictures with bees because they are quite important for our agriculture, so we decided to use them as a theme of our July challenge. Well, lovely, but every time when I color in this book, I struggle so much, especially with the backgrounds. Here, imperfections on the background, I tried to mask by adding those clouds, but I think that it resembles summer sky, so it didn't mess up the whole page. And most of all, I love their dresses. I was inspired by beautiful dresses from Germany. So I think that they look really nice, velvety. It was fun to color all those folds of fabric. Second, it's called Summer Witch Essentials and it was easier to color. Maybe the color of the background which I selected, it's slightly questionable, but honestly, when I tested this yellow on the paper, on regular normal paper, it looks slightly paler and without this orange undertone. It was lighter blue. How to explain for myself why this Ohuhu marker worked slightly different when I started to apply it here? I don't know. But I still think that all those witch essentials, they are not lost against this strange yellow background. So I'm happy with it. I enjoyed to do this dress. It reminded me about very old fashion when I was young. We also had those parts of the jeans closet and then added to them some parts from cotton. So it was very old fashioned, and I think that it was nice to remember about those times. Apart from it, I again tried to divide all these various elements into several color groups, something blue, something green, something with red elements, so it helped me to create this more well-balanced composition. This type of pictures, they are much easier to color for me comparing to this one, maybe because I don't have to worry about the background. Anyway, with some difficulties, with some problems, I have good progress in Year of Witches. In Teresa Goodrich book, I did only one page. I decided to do another project in Wish You Were Here. I started from the beginning of the book, so quite logically I selected another page, and it was this wooden cabin. I think that I mostly selected it because I loved the landscape behind the cabin, and I wanted to color wood. I love to color wood. I already selected for myself many Prismacolor color combos. Sometimes I base my wood on peach beige, sometimes on beige sienna, sometimes I can make more reddish wood using also burnt ochre or sienna brown, so it's fun, and I think that it looks quite peaceful, quite nice. Well, I'm not sure about this tree. I was bothered by so many green colors, so I decided that even if here we have obviously summer picture, I can do at least one tree with yellow and red leaves. Maybe it's some exotic maple tree, I don't know. I simply needed a spot in different color here, so that was my strange element on the page. But apart from it, I think that it's lovely. So I have very slow progress in this book, but everything I did here, it's not bad. Not my favorite book by Teresa, but at least I started to color here. Next we go to Johanna Basford. I have here one finished spread and one spread which I just started. The first one always looked very strange for me when I looked at the book. We had that strange simplified chandelier, a lamp with candles just hanging in the air, nothing around it, and not very connected to the text of the story. So when I had to color the spread, I decided that I need to show more clearly that here we have part of the dragon castle, and for dragon castle I think that colors have to be quite dark, dramatic. That's why I decided to add those stone arches, dark walls, and this background in a very dark wine red, almost black colors. First it created atmosphere of the dragon castle, and it also created very good contrast to the gold which I selected as a main color for the lamp. Well, I think that it was okay apart from the time and which I spent on it, and apart from the full black raspberry pencil which I spent here on the background, my poor pencil. Here I also thought that page is extremely empty. Miss Basford could add something from herself. I didn't want to leave it with just two elements, the butterfly and those jewelry necklaces, which I also don't know why they are hanging there. So at least I decided to add another arch, this flag which I simply copied almost copied. From the next page, at least the next spread gave me this idea, and couple of candles again to make connection with the left side. As usual, I also decorated central part area around the text using stencil and my one and only distress ink. Apart from it, I started actually the spread with dragon. I thought that it's Dragon King, but then when I looked more carefully at the story, I realized that maybe that's the queen. Anyway, here I immediately knew how I want to color the dragon, all her wings, scales, skin, but the biggest problem was how to do the background. Very simplified, very childish flame here. Maybe I had to change it slightly with the acrylic paint, but in the end I decided that maybe it's too many efforts. And another big problem was that when I did this background, I also had to think about background, future background for the right side. You know that when I color in this book, I did it already many times, I do similar background if it's possible for the left and right side, so the whole spread looks well balanced and united. So when I looked at this primitive botanical composition, I thought that I need to use maybe a little bit of blue or green behind the dragon, because it will be good colors to do this frame around this image. First I thought that simply black would be okay for the dragon, but then I thought that it's a children's book, it's too macabre to use black, and to use black here it's totally out of question. It would be not very suitable to the style of the page. So in the end I have here Kohinoor Mondeluz and Derwent Inktense pencils. I am extremely happy that I started to use more my water-soluble pencils, both Mondeluz and Inktense, because for many years they were almost abandoned. I feel more control over my regular pencils. If paper allows, I work more frequently with watercolor paints, but I have two sets of water-soluble pencils, and I am glad that at least somewhere I can use them. So here, something I did with Mondeluz, something I did with Inktense pencils. And of course I plan to finish this background in August. Another really good moment was when I finally started this book. I think that I own it already for longer than 1 year. I immediately fall in love with the artist's style. It's by Josh Lee. He has several books which I loved, but as my first book to test paper, well, it's regular Amazon paper, but still, I decided that first I want to have these gods and goddesses. It's slightly unusual because we have all gods from the Greek mythology, but depicted with a lot of Asian style, a little bit of manga vibe, unusual for me. And finally I did my first page, and I really enjoyed all from the first until the last moment. Despite the thin paper, despite slightly strange border here, I think that I managed to show the story behind the Prometheus. I wanted to make more visible the suffering of the Prometheus, so I added bloody spots here from the talons of the eagle, and also bloody spots here, because you know the story is that every day the eagle ate the heart of Prometheus, then in magical way he was healed to be able to suffer again the next day. Sorry guys, I know that it sounds stupid, but I just simply wanted to show those traces of blood, his suffering, a little bit more visibly. There were a couple of scars, but I decided to make them more bloody. I combined here Ohuhu markers for this very simple, quick background, but I think that it really worked well. Simple, quick, exactly what I needed here. And also light shades of markers helped me to add delicate shading on the white lining. I think that a lot of Greek gods, they were a lot of white, so I was a little bit afraid how to do proper shading on white clothes, white linen. Markers were extremely helpful. With pencils, I would have to spend longer time by blending, adding those beige cream shadows. So Ohuhu markers were really very helpful. The rest I did with polychromos pencils. I enjoy doing metal parts, golden parts, all those chains, and maybe most of all I'm proud of those highlights from the fire, from the flame which I have on the hair, on the skin, and even here on the fabric, the folds of the fabric. And of course now I feel much more confident and I intend to color in this book more frequently because it's really lovely. Despite the thin paper, art definitely is amazingly beautiful, very interesting, very inspiring. Again, I love short stories here, even if of course with markers we lost the beautiful beautiful look of this page, but well, at least background didn't create for me any problems when I did it with markers. Another big return is this book by Crystal Vogel, and another good discovery for me, because when I started to color in this book I really suffered with the background which I did with pencils or soft pastel. I totally disliked. I enjoyed the main image, but I was lost what to do with the background. Finally I decided to try again to use my water-soluble watercolor pencils. Here I added touch of watercolor paints, but paint maybe it requires a little bit more water, so I was afraid to damage surface of the paper. But water-soluble pencils were exactly what I needed here. I limit the background with masking tape, so I didn't have to color the whole area. So a little bit of masking tape, background with Kohinoor Mondeluz, and main image done with polychromos pencils. It was really a big pleasure because, as I said, I enjoy doing all these creatures, elves, fairies, part of the botanical compositions, but background, it really um, messed it up to my previous projects. So finally, when I found this way, I was extremely happy and I decided to do another picture the same way, a limited background, Kohinoor Mondeluz pencils, and this time I decided that maybe I can also use my water-soluble pencils, this time Derwent Inktense, for the leaves. I think that they look lovely. It was quite a quick way to color them. Paper behaves well with a little bit of water. Where I needed, when my pencils were dry, I added more intense shadows, like here, or I added some color accents, more yellowish along the edge of the leaf, but really using water-soluble pencils, it made coloring much quicker. Here, surprisingly, I love not the main hero, this lovely fairy, but somehow I think that the cutest part is this rain elf, maybe, at least this creature, and I love this mouse. So I wanted to do this page because I love these flowers for a long time, and finally when I decided that for all the next pictures I will do similar background, I hope that I will do many more pictures here. I love Crystal Vogel art, and finally I think that I can do something decent in this book. It wasn't the only one botanical book which I used in July. I did another page in A Walk in the Woods by Leila Dewley. This time I mostly practiced with various green color combos. I know that it's my usual problem that if I need to color picture with various leaves, even if I use different green color combos, bluish greens, olive yellow greens, in the end everything looks a little bit too boring probably because I'm afraid to add additional colors. So I try to add more brown shades, a little bit of maybe like sanguine or terracotta colors. Sometimes I try to deepen shadows with black or indigo colors, and it was part of the practice. I think that it's lovely, but something didn't work on those tiny flowers. I tried to color them with polychromos pencils, and I'm still not sure, but several polychromos pencils totally look pale, not very vibrant on this page. Well, slightly confusing. So for myself, I decided that maybe for the leaves it's better to use polychromos. For the flowers, if you want them to be really vibrant, maybe it's better to use some of Prismacolor pencils. Now, let's have a look at Symphony, and it's one of my best works in July. Most of all, I am proud that finally, in all my recent works here, I managed to work with Prismacolors on this paper, which in the very beginning I found quite difficult. But now I think that I found the way, just need to find the picture. Here, a very fun picture with those two cute rabbits and so many yummy rabbit things, so many lovely cabbages. Most of all here I enjoyed doing cabbages because I had to think carefully how to show this structure, those leaves pressed together, the difference in color between inner and outer leaves. I think that it looks lovely, and even with so many green elements, nothing is lost. I deliberately added slightly more yellowish to the background, to the grass, so those flowers and cabbages with more clean green colors, they would look nicer against such background. And I decided that if animals here are small, I can allow myself again to skip the very detailed fur coloring. It's better again to think about the whole composition. Maybe a little bit out of season because we definitely have some spring flowers here, but I am proud of it. Together with my previous works, which I did in May probably, I think that they are my best works here. Finally, I can blend on this paper. I think that I started to feel it better. Anyway, unfortunately it's only one work. I wanted to do another to finish my work in progress, but didn't have time. Finally, the favorite of the month, it's Sagar Ok Zakner and the cutest squirrel who is sleeping but in the same time guarding all collected treasures. I really think that squirrel maybe is a thief or maybe just a guardian of these treasures. I combined here different color salts because I remember from my previous experience that this Swedish edition, this rare book, it works really well with color softs. You know that I have complicated relationships with color softs, but on this paper they are really good. I use them mostly for the background. They help me to save my more precious Prismacolors because I constantly run out of the most popular colors. But color softs blended here really well. I also added on top of them those patterns which I did with stencils and again with my distress ink. Very simple, but it helped me to mask areas where I wasn't 100% happy with my very quick blending. And then for the main image, leaves, jewelry and squirrel, I used polychromos pencils. Of course, for the squirrel I also used white paint. Well, what can I say? Not the easiest one, especially when I did those pearls. For the pearls I added Prismacolor. You can recognize the great lavender everywhere unique color and one of my favorites. Here I looked at reference picture of squirrel and I tried to recreate the direction of the fur growth and main colors on the fur. I think that it's lovely. Most of all, I enjoyed that after many months of abandonment, I returned to this book, and I am extremely happy to see that already many people received their new edition and started to color the art of Emily Lindehol Oberg again. This book deserves to be very popular, and I think that pictures are suitable both for beginners, for more advanced colorists, easy to color, and always with this positive vibe and something like this hygge style, very comfortable for the soul. So I can recommend this book to everyone. That was my July story. Personally, very complicated, very challenging months with bombing in Ukraine, with many hours without electric power, but I'm still proud of my results, and I hope that you also enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and until my next videos.